Okay, Steph, this is very dark, so just
bring it on. You're in the right place.
I did need that song in order to say
Darker
this.
the better. Let's go. A 1, 2, 3, a 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go.
Well, have I got something for you? My guest today is Stephanie Wittels Wachs. Stephanie is the co-founder and chief creative officer of my new podcast network, Lemonada, where their slogan is, when life gives you lemons, listen to Lemonada. So yes, Steph is just my kind of person. She hosts the award-winning podcast Last Day, and she wrote a beautiful memoir called Everything is Horrible and Wonderful, about the death of her brother to an accidental heroin overdose when he was just 30. And everything is horrible and wonderful is my worldview and soon to be my chest tattoo. And Steph, I feel so grateful that we are doing this at long last. Hello, my dear.
Hello, my soulmate in podcast form. So nice to be here with you.
I know. So long ago, our hearts made a rainbow bridge.
And we were destined to find each other at 9 a.m. Pacific on whatever day this is. Yes.
That's exactly right. Oh, hon, I like so many people I meet and immediately adore, it comes at a really heavy cost. You are someone who knows befores and afters in a very intimate way. And I wondered if you wouldn't mind if we started there with your incredible, hilarious, wildly charismatic brother, Harris. What was he like when he walked into a room?
Oh, he was the life of the party. He was everyone's favorite dude. He was my favorite dude. From day one, we were just the two of us, and 3 years apart. We were both very weird. We had normal parents, but we came out... Actually, let me scratch that. They're not normal at all. They had normal occupations and appeared normal to the outside world, but very strange and funny, strange people. And we as a family, leaned into that, and we were funny. We loved having fun. We just liked each other.
Yeah.
And every holiday and every part of my childhood, it was hard, obviously, but it's colored by laughter. I think that's the thing that I remember most of the before times. And he, in addition to being, everyone's favorite, was just profoundly talented and not of this world. He just was. He came out different and kept on that path the entire time, and we didn't know whether he was going to be a massive failure or a whopping success. We always said it could go either way. He could be the best, most successful human in the world, or truly live in the basement forever. We don't know. We're not sure. Because he only did what he wanted to do, So school wasn't necessarily that. Although he was that student that had the profound respect of his teachers, but he just still made C's, when he was 22, he had this magical moment of meeting one of our dear friends, Sarah Silverman, outside of a comedy club. They were doing an open mic. He was 22. He was a baby child. He was no one should have ever given him any opportunities at 22. And yet she fell in love with him, like we all do, and remembered him, and then offered him a job on her show 3 months later. And I think the email was hey, I need a young greenie for the room. Do you want to come? I know you don't know what you're doing at all, but
come be my fetus.
Totally. Yeah. And he was let me think about that. Yes, I would appreciate the opportunity. He was so out of his elements in so many ways. But everyone there fell in love with him. He told Sarah, before she hired him, I'll come work for you, but I do have to go to a fish show for 4 days, the first day of work. So can I still have the job? And he still got the job. That's who he was, Just like not playing by our rules, but another set of rules, but they still worked, which is maddening too. So like the flip side of that kind of person is like he's constantly frustrating because he's not following the rule book and still like getting all the, you know, green lights along the way or whatever.
And he stays wildly successful. It sounds like he was, I mean, he writes for Eastbound and Down. He writes for, I mean, the funniest jokes on Between Two Ferns, which I still rewatch.
President Obama jokes. You know what I mean? Like he wrote, like he wrote for President Obama. No big deal. Yeah, he got everything handed to him. It felt like, you know, in many ways, it felt like that. He was a co-executive producer on Parks and Recreation. He played Harris, the animal control guy. I'm introducing my 9-year-old to Parks and Recreation now. We're starting from the beginning, and it's so fun to show her him in this way and through this lens. But then also, like, anybody who's super funny like that is also deeply sensitive and caring and compassionate, and he had that too. And so he would write scripts and not have them bought, and that would be horrible for him. He would feel like a failure, and there's this like level of rejection that he was getting accustomed to living in that world that I think just stung a lot. And and he started using drugs, and that was like where the story turns really sad and sour.
That must have been very surprising information, because on the outside, especially jobs in the entertainment industry, in my limited experience, I found that sometimes the shininess of those jobs is like pretty blinding, and especially when it looks like everything is, you know, people are making money doing what they like.
I mean, I would always say he's the most successful person I ever knew, and he loved his job. He loved it so much. But it's also, it's full of pressure. You have to pitch ideas constantly in a writer's room with people who you admire and revere, whose work you've been watching for years and years and years. And you have to show up ready and like contributing every day. You can't phone it in. And it's a lot of pressure for a child, for a 25, 6, 7, 8, 9 kid, you know. I mean there's some 29-year-olds that are not kids. He was.
yes It's so helpful too to hear Hugh like describe him, because I think it can be easy to get tripped up on what addiction looks like, that it has to be someone who had a really difficult childhood or like a traumatic, you know, fault line in their life, and that just wasn't the case with him.
No, it was, his blueprint was pretty rad. It's so funny. I do this show last day. You said it. I do a show. It's no secret. And I don't need to be coy.
I'd like to reveal to you something I've been meaning to tell you. There is a podcast available online.
There's like 4,000 episodes. Anyway, first season was all about opioids, and I dug deep into it and explored what you're talking about. And I sat down with this guy, Dr. Gabor Mate, who is the most world-renowned trauma specialist there is. And so we sat down, and he basically changed my entire understanding of trauma, of addiction, of everything. And I was like, hey, man, I brought you here today. I was a little bit nicer, but that was sort of the tone. To be like, our childhood was perfect. We had no trauma. We were super happy. And he was like, by the end of it, like, nope. That trauma is not what happens to you. It is what happens inside of you. So Harris might not have had overt trauma that looks like a textbook, but whatever happened to him, and our experiences are different. He always says there's two kids have two different parents. Two kids grow up in two different households. Whatever happened to him, the way he processed it was painful. And, you know, that's because of all sorts of things, right? Like wiring and disposition and all of that you sort of come out with. But I don't know. He helped me understand that really, truly, living in the world is traumatic for anyone, everyone.
Yeah. Yes.
And how we deal with that makes permanent sort of lasting marks. And I don't think I understood how deep Harris's well was, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a perfect way of putting it. And just like this, that the stories we have about who we are can sometimes be really painful and not sustainable. And then we don't know that until we, trip over something. We like fall in the tar pit that we can't then get out of. And it sounds like such a minor thing was his tar pit. It was he hurt his back.
He hurt his back. Yeah, he had this like back issue. We have it. My mom gets a bad back. I get a bad back. It's a thing. And he was like on the floor, like writhing in pain, could not move, had to call an ambulance. Like it was horrible. We were all living in Houston at the time. He was in LA. We were far away from him, which was hard because we're a close family and we couldn't go there, to help him off the floor. So he had lots of wonderful friends and chosen family out there that were so good and kind and lovely to him. But in this case, he had to get medical intervention. And this was, is bad timing. He was right in the moment where doctors were overprescribing really potent medication. So OxyContin is what he was prescribed. And I also don't want to make it sound like he never did a drug before that. He sure did. He loved to be high, right? Like that's another thing that I just need to say. I don't want it to sound like ever he got this prescription and then boom, he was addicted, right? Like he liked to numb out. He liked to turn his brain off. He liked to stop feeling things. And he usually did that with various substances, I think we like hierarchy things in our society, right? Like,
yes, we do. We do. Some things are better or worse. Some things are socially acceptable or not socially acceptable.
Totally. I have my glass of Pinot Noir every night, and it is absolutely fine. My son made a joke about it to his kindergarten teacher, and she was like, LOL. And it's still like everything has degrees of like can be problematic. So I think his combination of liking to kind of go away and escape whatever he was feeling, and then the real easy access he finally got to a very potent go away facilitator was really really terrible for him. And and for anyone it would be.
Yeah. Oh, and it just, and like I've struggled a lot with chronic pain in my life, and I mean, when you describe his back issue, and I mean, I've had whole days and weeks where 4 to 5 hours a day I've had to lie in a bathtub just to try to like alleviate one pressure on one disc, just to get my like brain back for a second. And also, aren't I supposed to be empathetic and funny? And well, that goes away. And I've really struggled with the wanting so desperately to, wanting so desperately for there to be a medicated solution to the devastation of chronic pain. I was reading, okay, Steph, this is very dark, so just
bring it on. You're in the right place.
I did need that song in order to say
darker
this.
The better. Let's go. A 1, 2, 3, a 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's go.
Well, have I got something for you? So Canada changed its euthanasia laws. And so in a very short period of time, the number of people applying to die skyrockets. And they have this process by which there's an outtake interview with people who are applying to die. And the number of cases of chronic pain, I actually spent just a whole weekend reading them and weeping, because it was people saying, it's not that I wanted to die. I just don't know how. I just can't live like this.
I want the pain to end. That is what it is. It is. We did an entire season on suicide after opioids. I'm very fun at parties. And that was the thing. It's not that I want to die. It's I want my pain to end. And that physical pain, like, that's the thing. Like, I feel like with all the work that I've been trying to do, accidentally, truly, it's like, please just understand and relate and empathize. Like, have you ever been really hurt? Have you ever just been like so in pain that you can't breathe? Okay, now imagine that just lasts all day, every day, forever. Like, you just want it to stop. And a lot of people, they try lots of things, and then it's like, well, I don't know. I just want it to end. And it breaks my heart. Like, it tears me up to even say it, because I've met so many people who, like what you're talking about. It's just,
yeah.
And I have so much empathy for what my brother was going through. I really do. I just really, I don't like even cry about him anymore. It says, woo. I'm never interviewed anymore. So I'm like, oh my God, is this what it's like? Yeah, but he was like, he was really in so much pain, and he didn't know how to stop it, you know? And it's really hard. And I feel so big for people who are struggling. I just really do. I know you do too.
Yes.
It's like to go through life like this.
I know. Yeah, where's the volume setting on this?
Can I turn it down?
Yes, how far can I turn this down? Totally. Yes. Yeah. I listened, I read your memoir, but I loved listening to the audio version because it's so honest, and it's so funny, and so very, very transparent about one of the things people don't love talking about, which is how loving someone who struggles with addiction is so difficult, because wound up in this disease is some very difficult personality traits. It sounds like there was a big difference between Harris sober and Harris using.
Different humans. Yeah. So much so, Kate, that I wrote the book truly in 9 months after he died. I wrote it in a fugue state of like, I wasn't here. I wasn't on the planet anymore. I was in grief land, and no one was there with me. And I was like, well, there's no other people here, so I need to just write by myself. Like, I shared a bed with a person who I married.
Yeah, people keep talking. Yeah. People want things.
I see a physical form walking around my house. He looks familiar. Can't talk to him. There's a baby here who I delivered a year ago and needs me, so I will smile at the baby. Yeah. But it's taken all my energy to smile at the baby, so the only thing I can do is crawl into my bed and write at night by myself. Like, that was how the book came out. And so it is, when people are like, it's so raw, it is so raw. There was so much so that when I went back to edit it, when I was less raw, 2 years later, you know how books work.
Yes.
Kate, do you know how books work? You write this book, then it goes away, then it comes back to you. You're a different person at that point, and then you're like, I'm sorry. No.
What was she like? That sounds
she
very upsetting.
Needs to take a moment. This person who wrote this book is very distressed, and I don't agree with her tone all the time. But my editor was so good. She was like, don't take that anger out. Don't take that stuff out. That is... You have don't put a blanket on that. Don't dampen it. because I wanted to be like, oh, no, 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 because I wasn't as mad at him anymore. I wasn't as mad at him. Like 2 years later, I was just like, oh my God, he was perfect and wonderful and amazing. And I had made him a god among mortals. And I didn't feel angry anymore. But I was really, really angry after he died. And it was in there.
Yeah.
And it is so hard. It's so hard because you're like, who are you? Where did you go? Where's my best friend? Where's my brother? Where's my funny dinner table partner to be looking at and like making unvoiced commentary about every moment that father and mother are acting like complete weirdos? Like, where are you? Yeah. I felt so robbed of my person, you know? And I really needed him too. Like at that moment, I had had a baby. She was born with hearing loss. It was my first child. I had no idea how to navigate that or disability, or I had a vision of like, I'm going to have her and then we will be a beautiful family and everything will be perfect and I will walk her and everyone will be like, she's so beautiful. And I'll be like, I know. And then I was just in the hospital for like 6 months, like trying to draw blood out of a 2-month-old baby, like putting a 1-month-old baby through an MRI machine, like all this stuff that just was so hard. And he was so high and I was just in hell. I was in a horrible place. Yes. It was horrible. I know. I'm so sorry. This is so sad. Is this too sad?
No. Is this too sad? Will never be a question. I will.
Do you want me to dial it down?
Never. Oh, Lovey. Because there's that feeling with like the 2 peas in a pod feeling. And especially when you're so vulnerable, like new baby vulnerable, managing like fears about hearing loss, like endless appointments and bills and appointments and therapies. It sounds like you were in the treadmill of diagnosis and
oh my gosh,
treatment and who's she going to turn out to be? Because is this how much of an obstacle is this going to be in her life?
100%. There were so many scares. Like I have like profound medical anxiety anyway. Why? I don't know. Let's ask Dr. Mate. My father was a doctor. I'm like, I don't know. I'm always afraid of medical stuff. It's a thing. It's always been a thing. So when my daughter had this thing, it brought out the absolute worst in me. The anxiety was off the charts. And all these things kept happening where they did a urine analysis and they contaminated it. And then I got a hysterical call that we needed to bring her immediately because she was having kidney failure. Like, what? I mean, she was a baby. My anxiety was just off the charts. We had been displaced, LOL. There was mold. Ha 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 ha. There was mold in the baby's room. There was a mushroom growing out of her carpet. Literal mushroom. We had to move out of the house when she was 1 month, in with my parents, with a newborn. My mother was like, why don't you just give her Benadryl? And I'm like, she is 6 weeks old. Like, but she keeps crying. I'm like, she's a baby. Do you remember babies? Because they do this, you know? Everything at once. So he went into rehab for the first time when she was 1 month old. Yeah. So it was just a nightmare.
Just gong show.
It was a nightmare. Yeah. It was terrible. It was terrible. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It was terrible. And I was worried about him all the time. And he kept letting me down. And I felt very selfish about that. I felt like, I need you to show up for Thanksgiving and be a human. Yeah. You know, I need you to help me navigate blah, blah, blah. I need you to be at the airport at this time. I'm going to pick you up and we're going to go on vacation with the baby that's cute. And I need you to be in pictures and behave. Yes. And he was like, lady, I am too high for this. I don't have a desire to do anything that you're telling me to do. And I'm going to lie to you also the entire time so that you're going to feel a little cuckoo. Like that's the thing too, when you're dealing with somebody who's addicted so profoundly, they have to get high. And so they have to do whatever it takes to make that happen, because if they don't, they will be very sick and unable to function. It's this wild thing that if you are not somebody who struggles with addiction, you can't understand. And I still can't understand it. I've done hundreds and thousands of hours of work in it, so I can try to understand it, but I don't know for my, self really what it feels like. But what I think it feels like is if I don't eat this food, drink this water, I cannot survive. And so that means that you lie to people and you do whatever it takes. The addiction is in charge. And so he wasn't lying to me because he's a terrible person. He was lying to me because he had a disease, and his disease made him lie.
Love. I know that it must have felt impossible. It sounds like it felt impossible from the outside to know how he was really doing, but it really did seem like he was doing well, like right before he died.
Oh my golly goodness. He was at the top of his game. He was about to be a very successful actor. He was so good on screen. And he's so funny and so charming. Every character he played was named Harris. They just were like, you just be you on screen. His animal control guy was Harris. He was working with Aziz Ansari on Master of None. It was before it came out. And it was just him and Alan Yang and Aziz, and it was the three of them writing, and then he and Aziz's little brother Anis, he was also there in the first season, and then more and more and more as the show went on. But he was in a sober living house, and he convinced them, because he's him and he doesn't play by the rules, to let him leave every day to go write on the show.
Oh.
So he would drive himself to his house, and Aziz would pick him up every day. He didn't even know he was living in a sober living house. And he would go to the writer's room and write all day, and then go back home and then go back to the sober house. And he was doing this. And he was loving writing on the show. Aziz's best friend on the show was named Harris. And he was going to be the character that Eric Wareheim played on the show. And then it was really funny because he had to audition for himself.
Yeah, you might know me from such things
as my own life. Yeah, he had to audition for the role of Harris that he wrote as himself. And it was so dumb. And we were just like, what is this world? This Hollywood thing is so ridiculous. What a waste of time. And he did it, and he crushed it, and he was really nervous about it, and he did such a good job, and he got the part. And this was a week before he died. And he had he was looking for Airbnbs. They were going to start shooting in New York 2 weeks after, early March, and he died February 19th, 2015. And he had done stand-up the night that he died, and which is his favorite thing, and he's so good at it. And he did that, and then he came home and he wrote my mom an email. And the other really sad and weird thing about it is that Parks and Rec was wrapping that next week. The series was ending, and so he wrote my mom an email when he got home and was like, you're going to love the finale. It's so special. I'm so happy. I feel so good about it. And then he died. He used and he died. Yeah, I know. It was so sad. I know. It's really sad.
Oh, sweetie.
I'm sorry. Why am I apologizing? I don't...
I wish I wish I could hug you right now.
I just don't revisit this ever anymore, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
It was like 9 years ago at this point almost.
Yeah.
Which is also crazy.
It sounds also like you had a very surreal kind of mourning too, when you have your little brother who's your little brother, and then you're grieving a person who the public is also grieving. And that I can imagine that it feels entirely inside out.
Do not recommend. 0 out of 10. No stars. It wasn't, yeah, it was so weird. It was so weird. We were grief stricken, and then there was this whole other layer of public grief that I did not prepare myself for and was not expecting. But yeah, I mean, TMZ broke the story. That's how my mom found out.
Oh,
horrible. And it was like,
yes.
there were some parts of it that were lovely. Like,
oh, you loved him too.
Yeah.
Oh, now I get to see your love. And he was important. And he's not just important to me.
Totally. And everyone's writing beautiful things about him. And he's the center of all of it. And I'm not just grieving by myself. Everyone's grieving. And everyone knows that he was the best. I agree. Yes. We're all in agreement that he was the best and that this is really sad. And then what happens with the news is that people stop caring very quickly. And that was heartbreaking. I was like, but y'all, we were all upset together. And now you have moved on to Leonard Nimoy, who died 2 weeks later. And I am still
devastated
with Harris. And
yes.
So I think all in all, I would have rather everybody not, because
it was like, yes, as the temperature taker of grief, you're like, oh, okay, I guess it's down to a reasonable room temperature.
Totally.
Whereas I'm still in the apocalypse. In one of my favorite movies, Trainwreck, the Amy Schumer character is presiding over the funeral of her dad, who is a difficult person. And finally, at one point, she's like, "Put your hand up if my dad was an asshole to you." And like, I thought that was kind of I just felt like that would have been also a wonderful part of funerals.
So good. I mean, that stuff is truly, it's like medicine. We joked all the time, still to this day. We were writing the obituary, and I had assigned my husband the job of like giving it to the newspaper and all of that. And so he came back and he was like, it is $2,500 for this.
No.
And I was like, pause the grief. I'm sorry, what did you just say to me? What are they charging per word? Okay, can you edit it down to like, I don't know, what is it, $500? Does that feel, Mom? Does that feel like, how much do we want to spend on this? Like, what is the, and then I was like quoting The Big Lebowski, where John Goodman's character is like, we're grieving, we're not saps, you know, and he's like, I'll take the ashes in the Folgers coffee can, you know, and I was like, LOL. Okay, now back to grief, you know, like there are these moments of,
yes, oxygen.
We're in the negotiation of how much we want to spend per word on the dead brother's obituary. We were like, this is so funny. Anyway, make it cheaper, and now let's keep crying, you know?
Totally. Oh, that is so relatable. That is so relatable. Because it is like, there's that, just the endless drowning, and then someone hands you terrible behavior.
I mean, my mom was so upset about like the deli platters, and they didn't have enough locks on them. And then when I was watching Transparent a couple years later, and Judith Light is like carrying the big mustard containers at the funeral, I'm like, this is, what a joy. What a tragic comic like farce.
Yes, absolutely. I I remember I was arguing. So I thought I was dying. So I was trying to buy a burial plot, and it quickly
Hilarious.
devolved. I was in the field with my in-laws, which quickly became. So I was like, I would love there to be like a memorial tree. We just plant it right here, because it's a farmer's field right outside my like a family, like our family farm. So I was like, well, you'll be here. It'll be so lovely. We can plant a tree. And immediately I could hear my father-in-law being like, it's actually really difficult to mow around a tree. And I was like,
Oh, it's delicious.
We are in it.
We have signs of life, everyone.
Like, do you think it's because when grief is so devastating, you feel almost like you could never be surprised by anything, and for something to be like the paddles on your heart?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's like the new status quo is just suffering and pain. That is it. It's like, now I live in pain and suffering. Now I am a sad person who will never be happy again. This was like what I was convinced of. And then when you have this moment of like a laugh that goes past your brain and into your gut, it's like a life raft. It's like, I used to teach acting, I'm sorry to say. I taught at a performing arts school for many, many, many years, and it was such a joy. And I taught amazingly talented teenagers. But I would always say to them, guys, humor, human. Get it? Get the mix? Do you see that? See that? You cannot have humanity without humor. It is such a core part of it. And they would do these scenes, and they were so sad. And I'd be like, nope, this is so not real. I do not believe you. Because there's no laughter. And if there's no laughter, there's no levity. It is not human. I don't believe it. I believe you are acting. Now, if you joke at the really dark part, then I'll be like, okay, yeah. That's more lifelike, right?
Yes.
Yes. And I think it's the thing that keeps us from, I don't know.
Yes.
Driving into the ocean.
Yes, exactly. I also thought that you may be on to a stage of grief that you could let Kubler-Ross in on, that there's a stage of grief known, in your opinion, as manic investigation.
Yes.
I thought that was such a perceptive description of, like, your brain on grief. Like, what did that look like for you?
It was maniacal is what it was. I decided I needed to be, that somebody had assigned me the task of being the detective of my brother's entire history, past, our relationship, what went wrong when, where did I miss the clues. I think this is particularly present when it is a sudden loss, when it's something that doesn't make sense. So something that feels shocking. Obviously he was shooting heroin. I knew that there was a risk. But you don't think a 30-year-old bright beaming light is just going to stop living, or stop shining, rather, to go on with my metaphor. But yeah, I was like, okay, let me look at every email, let me look at every text message, let me analyze every voicemail, let me look at every picture, let me go back and look at home movies when we were 2 and see what I can find from there. And I just needed to piece it together. I needed to make it make sense. And it never will. It never did make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Still to this day, I have not cracked the case.
Yes.
I have. The case is that he was a human being who became addicted to a substance that made him feel like he could live in this world. And then the substance killed him. That is what happened. That is like the beginning, middle, and end of what happened. And that is so simple in many ways and incredibly complex. And I have now spent the last 4 years of my life trying to articulate it in the spoken word.
Hon, you did that crystallized truth right there. It's like the difference between every time you open a Dove chocolate and see whatever crap they've written on the inside.
But you read it every
Like
time, don't you? You read it every
yeah.
time.
And it's like a smile is a hug your mouth gives. You know, it's always got that weird tone. But like what you're describing is just, it's wisdom. Like you arrived at something painful and crystalline and true. And it takes so long to get to those truths.
I think that wisdom does penetrate the choices that I make actively every day. I will talk to my children about every feeling they are feeling every day forever, right? Like nothing is off limits. Nothing can hang out in shadows with me. I am like, the world is painful and hard, and that is just a truth. That is something that I accept. So what can we do in our little nook, in our little corner, to make it a little more palatable? And I don't know if I even am conscious of that, you know, but I do feel it coming into my relationships and the way that I approach every human. And I don't know, I just like look at someone, I'm like, oh God, you're going through it. I know you are. Aren't you? You are. Let's be friends. You know, there's just, and I'm always like, why do people tell me everything that's wrong with them all the time without me even asking? And I'm like, occupational hazard. But then I'm like, no. It's because that's my energy. You get it too. I know you get it too. It's let's just get into it.
Yes. It broke and now it's cracked open. So I guess we're just going to have to do this now. There's one sentence that I underlined a million times, and it was when you wrote, I finally understand the meaning of acceptance on the grief chart. Mm. It's not that the bereaved ever accepts the death of the loved one. I will never accept your death. It's that you come to accept that these really are your shitty, irreversible circumstances. And you write that in the most redemptive way. I mean, because it's not an arrow pointed down. When I read that from you, I hear like, these are the lives we have. These are the loves we have. Like we are gonna be eyes open on this. And it sounds like it really has transformed your parenting decisions and your determination to love
everything. Like I do not accept that this beautiful human is not here. I do not accept it. But I accept that this is what it is. You know what I mean? Like it's not like I'm like, yes, I have come to terms. No, I haven't. I have not. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like, yeah, it's just hard. Stuff is hard, and you have to just keep going in reality. Yeah. It's the reality. The reality is he's gone. He is gone. That is the reality. It is garbage. And it's stupid, and I hate it.
Your determination to be wonderfully, unflinchingly honest about that is really helping change how people talk about it. And it has certainly been a balm to my little soul. And thank you so much for this conversation. This has been, in a very deep way, a joy to me.
Are you sure?
No, it really did make my day. So